All right, what's happening, y'all? It's your boy Rico from Street Scores, and I think it's a good time to dive into some of the Washington Commanders betting odds, especially concerning everything going on with the draft. We have first pick positions as far as what are we going to take first in the first round, not specific players, but which position: cornerback, offensive line, tight end, edge rusher, running back, whatever. Then we also have specific player odds on who we may take with the 16th overall pick in the first round. And of course, with Vegas, do they know something? They're never 100% right. We can never expect them to. But their goal is to make money. They're only going to put these odds out there based on any random information that they may have heard. Of course, they're not going to be spot on because nobody is. And that's the fun in the gamble. But you do got to think, do they know something? Have they heard something around the NFL? Because right before the draft comes out, they'll come out with some random odds and we'll be like, nah, no way. Vegas is drunk or something. And then a lot of it will come true again. It's never everything, but you do have to question, does Vegas know something that we don't? We also have an over-under 2023 win total. I wanted to go ahead and talk about that now before the draft because I want to see if that improves after the draft if we have a good enough draft. And of course, Bijan Robinson odds, we have been included in some of the top Bijan Robinson odds based on where you're looking at. So we're going to dive into that and more. But before we do, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the bell next to the subscription button so you get notification immediately and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. If you missed it, make sure you go check out that really fun live stream we had earlier today where we did everything draft. I answered all questions. We even did a mock draft with each other at the end, and it was hilarious because we were trying to trade back and it just got really chaotic, and I allowed everybody in the chat to vote for some of the picks as well. Really fun. And of course, be on the lookout for the live streams this upcoming week. I'm doing everything draft. I'm live streaming the entire Thursday first round. I'm live streaming the entire second and third rounds on Friday. And I'm even live streaming potentially the fourth and fifth rounds on Saturday. And then make sure you pull up early to the live stream as well, because Thursday the draft doesn't start till 8. I'm gonna start live streaming by like 6:30, and I may even open up the phone lines for y'all to call in. We'll probably do some mock drafts, all kinds of stuff leading up to the draft. So it's gonna be a really fun night from 6:30 all the way until the first round ends, and then the same thing Friday. But I don't want to take up too much of y'all time. Let's go ahead and get to these betting odds. That's why y'all are here. Without further ado, let's get it. All right, so first of all, there's some betting odds going around that says, who will the Commanders draft with their first pick? And that doesn't exactly mean 16th overall. If we were to trade back and stay in the first round, that's probably included in that scenario. But either way, the first time that we pick an NFL draft, whether it's the first round or not, what position will we take? Not player yet. We'll get to that soon. But right now, position. Right now, they have cornerback plus 100 at number 1 most likely. Offensive line at plus 200 right behind it. Not far behind at all. Then, slight distance, tight end third at plus 700. Running back plus 800 right behind it. Defensive lineman plus 1,000. Quarterback plus 1,200. Linebacker plus 2,400. Safety plus 2,400. And wide receiver plus 4,000. And that's not to say, especially particularly linebacker, that that's not our biggest need. Do not look at this as if, okay, cornerback is our biggest need, offensive lineman is our biggest need, tight end right after that, running back after that. It's not in the order of need. It's just how the draft looks. There are not a lot of great linebackers in this draft, and arguably none of them are worthy of going 16th overall with our pick. So even though linebacker is one of our 3 biggest needs easily, undisputed, it has the third lowest odds out of all position groups because there's realistically just nobody worth that 16th pick. But then again, most people probably didn't think we would take Jamin Davis 19th overall when we took him a couple of years ago. So who knows? But either way, this is really interesting. And the fact that cornerback is number 1, I'm leaning towards that, especially if somebody like a Devon Witherspoon or a Christian Gonzalez, one of the elite guys, fall to us at 16, which is quite possible. Otherwise, I'm taking offensive lineman because there's a bigger drop off after the first few offensive linemen are taken than cornerback. Cornerback, there are really good to great players that are going to be available going into the second round, third round, and maybe even the fourth. Whereas offensive linemen, especially tackles specifically, after the first round, maybe even like halfway through the second, it's pretty much like, yeah, nah, you're good. So take offensive linemen in the first round. That would be the best decision strategically, and then take cornerback in the second after that. And if we trade back, maybe you end up taking both in the first round. If we could somehow trade back and end up with another first round pick, even though I highly doubt it. And then tight end is interesting because it is kind of a need, even though Ron Rivera and those guys say that they love the tight end group, but there's just a lot of great tight end talent. It's pretty much the reverse of linebacker. We really need linebacker, but there just aren't really any linebackers really worthy of going 16th overall. Whereas tight end, in Ron Rivera's eyes, and I can make an argument for this tight end group at the very least ceiling wise, not floor. I'm not very confident in this tight end group, but I do love the talent in it. So again, kind of the inverse of linebacker, not as big of a need, but it has higher odds because the talent is so great, and there are so many tight ends that are worthy of going at the very least in the first round. Again, the exact opposite of linebacker. So that's why those odds are there. Again, Vegas is doing this at the end of the day to make money. They want to be as right as possible. So maybe they know something that we don't, but they've also done a pretty good job evaluating this draft, understanding that there's a lot more high-end tight end talent in this draft than linebacker, just to address those two positions and the stark differences that they have right there. But again, cornerback in the first round, I wouldn't be mad at it. I would actually love it, especially if it's an elite talent like Christian Gonzalez or Devon Witherspoon. Or if we trade back, I wouldn't be mad if we ended up getting like a Deontay Banks or somebody like that. We'll see. But I think strategically offensive lineman first and then cornerback in the second makes the most sense. And if you trade back, maybe you end up with a tight end somewhere in the first, early second. We'll see. Now moving on to specific players from bookies.com. This is where things get really interesting. They have an implied probability and everything. I'm gonna read the entire line for each one. Here are the betting odds for the Washington Commanders to pick specifically at 16th overall. If we stay put at 16, these are the betting odds. If we trade back, things get a little different, things get a little weird, and it's crazy because trading the pick is one of the betting lines, and playing the field, which is basically just the other, is another betting line. And I think we are very likely to trade this pick and to move back. And it's kind of funny because they combine trade pick and acquire quarterback in the same betting odd, and I think it is quite likely that we trade back. I felt like, again, I know I keep saying it every video, every live stream, but last draft I didn't want to trade back and we traded back. This draft I feel like it would be smart to trade back, so I think we're even more likely to trade back this draft than we were last draft. And trading back last draft, I really wanted Jameson Williams and Kyle Hamilton, but I'm not mad with the haul that we got. With trading back allowed us to get Jahan Dotson, Brian Robinson, Sam Howell, and Cole Turner. We would not have been able to get any of those guys without trading back. Well, technically we could have gotten Jahan Dotson where we were, but because we traded back, got Jahan Dotson, we were able to get those other three players because we traded back. We had to throw like a 6th round pick in there as well to kind of help with the trade. But yeah, man, that is crazy. So let's get into these betting odds. First up, with the highest odds, Deontay Banks, cornerback from Maryland, plus 375 odds with a 21.1% implied probability. The most likely player, according to bookies.com, for us to take with the 16th overall pick, or what we're going to do with the 16th overall pick, because again, trading the pick is also one of the odd lines, so it's really interesting. Devon Witherspoon, cornerback out of Illinois, the next one. And Devon Witherspoon is obviously the better cornerback, at least in my opinion, and should go sooner in the draft. And that's why his odds are lower, because even though he is the better player, and I'm pretty sure the Commanders prefer Devon Witherspoon over Deontay Banks, it's just not very likely that he'll make it to our pick. So he's second with plus 450 odds with an 18.2% implied probability. That's pretty high. That's way higher than I expected. I'm almost sure Devon Witherspoon won't be there for us to pick at 16 overall. If we're just going based on tape, he has the best tape out of any DB in this entire class. If we're just going purely on tape. But Christian Gonzalez has a lot of great tools. Somebody that long, that fast, with hips that great and fluid, his change of direction skills. He's basically just built in a lab. He's your closest thing to potentially being like a Sauce Gardner in this draft class. But his weakness in the run game, which Devon Witherspoon doesn't have at all. He's great against the run. He's the most complete corner in this draft class. Again, he has the best tape out there. I think Devon Witherspoon is more likely to go before 16 than Christian Gonzalez. I think they'll both probably be gone, but I think Devon Witherspoon will be be the first cornerback taken, in my opinion. Really interesting though. Maybe the bookies.com knows something that we don't, and Christian Gonzalez will go first. And there is a chance that Devon Witherspoon can slide to us. And if he does, you got to sprint to the podium to take him. I'm not going to lie. Then third, you have Michael Mayer, tight end from Notre Dame, plus 475 odds with a 17.4% implied probability. No offensive lineman yet. Then next up, you have Dalton Kincaid, tight end out of Utah, plus 550 odds with a 15.4% implied probability. And in my opinion, you know, Michael Mayer is probably the better blocker, but I feel like Dalton Kincaid is going to be the bigger star. I think Dalton Kincaid literally is potentially a better Zach Ertz, but do we necessarily need a receiving tight end? That's where the debate is. So that's why Michael Mayer may make a little bit more sense, because maybe we want to lean towards somebody that can block better, whereas somebody like a Dalton Kincaid who has better receiving potential, because we do have Armani Rogers, who I think Eric Bieniemy can get a lot out of him, and he could eat from the 20 to the 20. Then when you get in the red zone, you have Cole Turner, who's a red zone monster, especially once he's able to stay healthy and develop. And then Curtis Hodges at 6'8". So we have everything you need as far as receiving goes if we can get the most out of those guys, but that's a big if. Remember that. So if you want to go ahead and get arguably the best receiving tight end in this draft, you can argue Dalton Kincaid has the best hands in this draft, regardless of position, tight end, receiver, or whatever. Then you can go ahead. But I feel like he's lower on the odds, not because he's a worse player than Michael Mayer necessarily. Again, there's a debate there, but I feel like he's lower because it's quite likely that he's going to be gone before we pick 16. I think he's more likely to get picked than Michael Mayer before our 16th overall pick. Then next up, with the 5th highest odds, you have Osiris Torrance, the guard from Florida, plus 750 with an 11.8% implied probability. I'm surprised by that. Maybe they're just assuming that all of the tackles will be gone, because I would way more prefer to take a tackle with the 16th overall pick than a guard, even though I think Osiris Torrance will be a really good guard. And even though we do technically have a bigger need at left guard than any of the tackle positions, because Charles Leno is serviceable / decent. And last time we saw Andrew Wiley, he was blocking his tail off at right tackle against arguably one of the best defensive lines in football against the Eagles in the Super Bowl. So we're solid at right tackle as well. We're technically alright at tackle at the very least, but with positional value and the type of tackles, the level of talent in the tackle group in this draft class with Darnell Wright, Anton Harrison, Broderick Jones, Paris Johnson Jr., it gets crazy out there. I would personally take tackle and then just have to move Andrew Wiley to left guard, I guess, because I'm the type that's like, don't fix what's not broken. Andrew Wiley was balling at right tackle, but you end up landing one of those top tackles. Somebody got to move, and it's probably going to be Andrew Wiley, or maybe you cut Charles Leno to save cap space. Either way, again, my point is, I don't really see us going Osiris Torrance at guard, but then again, maybe bookies.com knows something that we don't, just like Vegas. Then next up, you have Joey Porter Jr. at cornerback, Penn State, plus 950 with a 9.5% implied probability. And that's really interesting because John Comm just came out of nowhere a couple of days ago with serious confidence saying that we will not be taking Joey Porter. I don't know if Rivera told him to say that as a smokescreen, but he said it with the utmost confidence, and that's the only player that I've heard X'd out so far. Out of every player in this upcoming draft is going to get drafted, the 300 and something potential players, technically it's like a pool of 400, 500 though, but out of all of those guys, Joey Porter is the only name I've heard anybody say that the Commanders will not take with certainty, so that's really interesting there. And then the next odds are to trade the pick / acquire a quarterback, and then the odds are plus 500, which is technically in between Michael Mayer and Dalton Kincaid. That's the 4th highest odds out of everybody. They just put it at the bottom with a 16.7% implied probability. So we have almost a 17% chance to trade back. The only thing that they feel like is more likely to happen in this draft is us take Michael Mayer at tight end, Devon Witherspoon at corner, and Deonte Banks at corner. Other than that, they feel like we're just probably going to end up trading back. And then there's the field with a 9.5%, a plus 950 odds, which is equal to Joey Porter. 10% is interesting, but at the same time, they feel like they're so sure about what may happen between those first 7 options and choices that the field technically is only 10%. It's 90% chance that we do one of those 7 things, take one of those 6 players, or trade the pick, and then there's only 10% left, slightly less than that, for us to potentially take anybody else. So that's really interesting. Again, there are a lot of tackles. There are some other guys I hope slide. I love Darnell Washington. There's a lot of guys out there that are really interesting. So, hey man, maybe they know something we don't. That's the theme of this video. Next up, Vegas did an offensive line update yesterday, and they have the 2023 NFL Draft first offensive lineman drafted. They have Paris Johnson Jr. first from Ohio State, -175. That has to be they know something that we don't. Because I think Paris Johnson is a great tackle, and we would be lucky for him to fall at 16. But I like Darnell Wright, Broderick Jones, and Anton Harrison more than him, me personally. And so the fact that he's the only one with a negative odd, and that just sounds like they're sure. This is Vegas again. Their goal is to make money. They must know something we don't. Paris Johnson Jr. is probably more than likely going first based off of this. Again, those odds that come out right before the draft, man, things happen. Things go down. Travon Walker suddenly first overall pick. Even as a Georgia Bulldog fan, I would have taken Aiden Hutchinson with the #1 overall pick. When people started saying rumors that Travon Walker would go first overall, Vegas started saying it would happen. Everybody was like, this is just noise. This is just that draft chaos that always comes up near the draft. People just trying to bait for clicks and things like that. And then things end up happening. And so when Vegas puts this out with 5-6 days to go before the draft, I'm thinking Paris Johnson probably will go first, but I'm going to get to why this matters to the Commanders. Peter Skoronski out of Northwestern, he's going from tackle to guard, in my opinion, most likely, +200 odds. Darnell Wright out of Tennessee, sadly, is third with +600. Broderick Jones, my Georgia Bulldog, distant fourth, +1400. And then Anton Harrison, distant fifth with the +10,000 odds. So how that relates to the Commanders is really interesting that when you look at it, technically, we're more likely to end up with Broderick Jones than a Darnell Wright in the draft. They switched places. Darnell Wright was a projected second-round pick this entire draft process, literally till really kind of like his pro day in the combine. And even after that, shortly after that, he was still projected to be a second-round pick, and he just keeps going up and up boards day by day. And the fact that he is now past Broderick Jones in the odds of going first is interesting. So it sounds like we're more likely to potentially land Broderick Jones 16th overall or Anton Harrison than a Darnell Wright. Either way, I'd be really happy with anybody I named on this list. But again, my favorite is Darnell Wright, probably second, Broderick Jones third, probably Anton Harrison, then Paris Johnson. And Peter Skoronski, of course, again, I feel like he's a guard, so I'm not including him in my tackle rankings. But again, either way, any of these 5 guys make it to 16, we'll be lucky to have any of them. I would be excited to get Paris Johnson Jr., even though he's my 4th favorite tackle. I can see the argument for him being the #1 tackle for a lot of people. I can easily see it, especially that footwork, man. People that big shouldn't be able to move like that. But then March 28th, let's get to the Bijan Robinson odds, man. March 28th, there was a betting odd rankings of teams that are most likely to draft them. Which team will draft Bijan Robinson? We were #1 with the highest odds at +400. The Chargers right behind us +500. Then the Cowboys, then the Eagles, then the Falcons, then the Bengals, then the Saints, then the Buccaneers, so on and so forth, all the way down. We had the highest odds as of March 28th. Then somebody else came out with their own odds, a completely separate book. And right now we're second only behind the Cowboys. The Cowboys have a 4-to-1 ratio. We have a 9-to-2. Then it's the Chargers 5-to-1. Then Eagles 15-to-2. Then Falcons. Then Bengals, Saints. Then Buccaneers. It's pretty much the same list as the other one, but shuffled around a little. But either way, no matter what betting odds you look at, we're at the very least top 3 most likely to draft Bijan Robinson, and that's very interesting. I mean, if you think about it, Washington is looking to add another running back. They feel like Antonio Gibson can move more to like a returner role and take over what J.D. McKissic was doing for us before the neck injuries and before he was phased out of the offense. Whereas they feel like they want a guy to kind of go back and forth with Bijan Robinson on true carries, like running the ball. Even though I feel like Antonio Gibson needs an expanded role. He needs to run the ball more and catch the ball more than he ever has for the Commanders. I see so much talent in him, so that's the reason I wouldn't draft Bijan Robinson. I say fix offensive line and corner. Those are the priorities, and look at tight end as well. But Bijan Robinson is probably going to end up being a future Hall of Famer. He does look like a really good player, but I feel like we already have Antonio Gibson and Brian Robinson. We should be straight. But at the same time, John Kahn, remember, he tweeted, he talked to Ron Rivera March 28th. As far as running back, Rivera said that they want to add someone else. Could be in free agency or the draft. Brian Robinson will still be the top guy. Gibson can handle the McKissic role. He did so last year, but still would like to add another back. Are they willing to go first round running back for it? Well, remember, the pick6.com came out with a chart a visualization of the last time each NFL team drafted a running back in the first round. And the last time the Commanders took a running back in the first round was Ray McDonald in 1967. So I wouldn't bet on it, but at the same time, you got to look at that Carolina Panthers one. Remember, Ron Rivera took Christian McCaffrey in 2017 in the first round as their head coach. He's our head coach now, but when he was the head coach for the Carolina Panthers, he had no problem taking a running back in the first round as long as they look like a guy that can contribute in the passing game as well. And that's literally who Bijan Robinson is. I mean, you can easily argue Bijan Robinson is a better college prospect entering the draft than even Christian McCaffrey was. So, hey man, don't sleep on the fact that it may happen. And again, Eric Bieniemy and Ron Rivera have been talking about adding an additional running back, whether it be through the draft or free agency. If they don't get a guy in the draft, maybe they'll go after Jerick McKinnon, like reports have said, like rumors have said after the draft. We'll see. And then the final thing we're going to talk about today is the Commanders win total over under is 7.5 wins right now for the 2023 regular season, which is lower than our 2022 opening win total, which was 8 above or under for that. And then we finished the season with 8 wins. So is it possible for us to finish this season with 7.5 wins since they think they're so smart and so accurate? No, it isn't. But I would easily take the over on that. If I had enough money to play around like that, I would easily take the over because I think we're going to be really good, especially after we address this draft. I think we're going to kill the draft. I don't know what it is, just the energy in the air. I think we're going to do a lot of right things. So I'm really excited, man. But yeah, that's the end of this video. Let me know how you feel about this over-under total for the 2023 regular season. Again, I wanted to talk about that now before the draft because I want to see after the draft if that changes to a higher over-under total wins for the 2023 regular season. Do people feel like we killed the draft if our total goes up? Or do they feel like we failed the draft and our total goes down? That you over and under bet. But of course, let me know how you feel about everything discussed in this video. The Bijan Robinson odds, the position that will take first odds, the player that will take first odds, our potential to trade back, which tackles are most likely to be there at 16th overall. Everything we talked about in this video. Let me know how you feel. And of course, man, I appreciate all the support, man. Shouts out to all of my sponsors, especially my Pro Bowl sponsors, whose name you see scrolling on the screen right now. Man, I really appreciate y'all. Leave a like on this video if you liked it, if you learned anything. And I'm gonna keep killing y'all with these videos and be on the lookout for the live streams throughout the entire draft process. I'm gonna catch y'all later. I'm out.